Mercury will be in retrograde from July 18th through August 11th. Now, this retrograde this time around, okay, is not going to feel as harsh as the last retrograde in Pisces. However, we are in heavy retrograde energy, so I'm sure, we all probably will get some energy confused with Mercury. The retrograde that is going to kick us in the butt will actually be Saturn retrograde, which is also happening right now as Mercury is in retrograde. Okay, hooray, hooray. However, Mercury itself is not going to be so harsh. Okay, Mercury is not going to talk to many other planets while in retrograde, so we are fortunate enough to have at least that. Okay, there are two aspects that happen while Mercury directly to Mercury while Mercury is in retrograde. Okay, there's a conjunction with the sun. All right. And then at the beginning of the retrograde, there is sextile energy to Venus. Okay. So it's not, it's not any terrible aspects or things that, not square energy, right? There's no square energy to this retrograde. It's just sextile, which is opportunities that will present themselves. That's not good or bad. It's just opportunities, period. And then a conjunction is working together with the sun. The sun is coming in, and shining a light on Mercury, and we got to figure out what that is. Okay, so there's really only two aspects that we really need to worry about in Mercury retrograde. Hooray! Now, Mercury retrograde is going to bring opportunities, right? Because every retrograde has its purpose, okay? So this retrograde, Mercury being in Leo, is going to bring opportunities to kind of refine your creative activities or the things that you do, the things that you take pride in, how you think about things. This could be how you perceive things, like how your mind can be a bit dramatic, or how your mind can be creative, how you can refine that energy. Okay, it can be around how you've shown up to communication or how your logic is processed, based in ego and pride. Opportunities to kind of reflect, restructure, or repair energy as it relates to how you communicate, and the pride that you communicate in, the ego that you communicate in. Okay, this will bring opportunities for us to reflect on, repair, restructure, energy around us showing up as if we know everything, right? We have all the answers. We just know, because Leo energy, my pride, my ego, I just know. I'm wrong, though. You're wrong. What are you talking about? You're wrong. I'm right. It's opportunities for you to kind of take a step back and change your perspective. Okay, so this is the energy of Mercury retrograde in Leo. Okay, those Leo attributes, which is pride, ego, charisma, creativity, drama. All right, and how your mind is processing based on those attributes, right? That is what's coming back to us in retrograde. So let's jump right into the signs. Again, I'm going to do my whole spiel. This will be most accurate if you look at this based on your rising sign, okay? Because this will encompass where this energy will show up in your life, okay? But if you want to look at this from your sun or your moon sign, your sun sign would be in relation to your perspective, your focus, your attitude, your ego, and your pride, okay? And if you're looking at this from a moon perspective, this will be reflective in like your home, your internal security, your instincts, and your intuition and your emotions. Okay, so that's how you will process it. But your rising sign, right, is most accurate to understand where or what will be popping up. Okay, so let's jump right in. All right, Scorpio. So Mercury is going to be in retrograde in your 10th house, and your 10th house is your house of ambitions. Okay. So this is the house that has your goals, your ambitions, the fame that you'll attain, the influence that you have, the power that you have, your achievements. All right. The honor that you have, the reputation that you have. Okay. Now, this is in the realm of Leo for you. Okay. So there's an emphasis here. Mercury is going to be working on your mind because Mercury rules over the mind, right? Mercury is going to be working on your mind, your perspective, your conversation, your communication as it relates to, you know, how you show up in this area of life and, you know, courageous, you know, charisma, uniqueness, creativity, but there are also other energies around like arrogance, pride, and ego as it relates to Leo, right? So Mercury is going to be working on these attributes within your ambitions and your goals, okay? So first of all, there's so many other retrogrades. Mercury is not even going to be too hard on us this time around, okay? You got Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto in retrograde already. Mercury joining the party, all right? Mercury is giving us a little bit of a break, okay? There are only two aspects happening in this energy. Mercury will be in a sextile to Venus, okay? Mercury will be in a sextile to Venus on the 18th when Mercury goes into retrograde, okay? So Venus is in the 8th house, right? And now Venus is, you know, the ruler of peace, love, abundance, happiness, creativity, relationships, partnerships, all that good stuff. Okay, so this is a conversation happening between your 8th and your 10th house. Okay, so earlier this year, about May 30th, the Sun and Mercury had a conjunction in this house as well, right? And up next, the second aspect that we'll talk about is the Sun and Mercury in retrograde having another conjunction, another conversation together, right? In your 10th house, right? So this is a distinction between your goals, what it is that you truly want to accomplish, and what it is that you need to move on from. Okay, so Venus in Gemini is, there's an emphasis on like your creativity, curiosity, right? Flexibility of your imagination. All right. Or also like your shallowness or imbalance in how you're thinking, your thought process, your imagination as it relates to creating, you know, positive interactions, partnerships, relationships, harmony, peace, love, abundance, all that good stuff, right? The stuff that Venus rules over. Okay. So with that 8th house, the 8th house is the house of transitions. Okay. The house of death, regeneration, transformation. This is the house of other people's money, shared resources. Okay, this is bonuses. This is, you know, financial upgrades. This is wills and inheritances. It's a trick bag. Okay. It's a lot of stuff in that house. But ultimately, what I like to think of the 8th house is your transition house, right? Like, how do you move past? How do you get past things and what comes towards you when you actually do that, right? So Venus is in the 8th house, like, okay, now I see that you want this. This person wants, you know, a new life. This person wants to evolve and be at peace. And you know, it could be that this person wants to clear debt, or this person wants to have a divorce and, you know, get money in a divorce. It really depends. The 8th house is a trick bag, okay? For real, for real. So Venus is in the 8th house, and she's trying to create opportunities where you could transform and evolve, right? Transition, right? Get a little coin possibly, right? And now Venus and Mercury are having a conversation between that 10th and that 8th house, right? So Venus is like, okay, well, I recognize that you want to transition, you want to move on from something, right? Venus just came from the 7th house of, you know, long-term bonds, right? I see that you want to transition from something. Okay. And now Venus is having a conversation with Mercury, who is in the land of your ambitions and goals. She's like, Venus is like, hey, Mercury, you know, this person wants to move on. This person wants to leave this in the past. This person wants a divorce and wants all of the money, right? This person wants this. Venus is trying to bring peace, love, happiness, and abundance, right? And Venus is Venus is communicating with Mercury in that 10th house of ambitions, goals, reputation, influence, power, right? And Mercury in that 10th house is like, okay, in retrograde, is like, okay, well, I recognize this person wants that, but how does this work for this, right? So there's an emphasis here on, all right, let's see, achievements, right? In the 10th house. I want to be a person, you know, this is kind of like a choice between what it is that you want and what it is that you need to leave in the past, right? So I want to be a person that only had one partner in life, right? My ambitions are to be maybe a kept wife, right? You know, I don't want to have to spend any of my money. I want to spend all of my spouse's money. I don't want to have to come up out of my pocket for anything. And Venus sees that. And, you know, the type of relationship that you're in, it didn't start that way, but maybe you're trying to transition it into that, right? And now Mercury is in the 10th house, and Mercury also is looking at the realm of life where there's influence and power, right? So it's like, okay, you want to be a kept wife. Now there's a conversation, right? You want to be a kept person, you wife or husband, a spouse, whatever. You want to be kept, right? You want to have money and not, you want to have abundance. You want to have all of these things. You want to partake in your spouse's coins, right? So now Mercury is like, but, you know, if you do that, okay, if you know, if that's what you're choosing to do, that's cool and all. However, you are going to have to recognize that there's a give and take with everything. So the power that you have, this person likely is going to have more influence on your life if that's what you want. The person that you are with, right? I'm not saying everybody's like that, but the person that you are with is going to expect something in return. And that's complete control of you if that's what you want. You want to be kept? This person is going to keep you entirely. Is that what you want? Is that how you want to operate here? Mercury brings out those types of things. Consider, is this truly what you want? Right? With your pride and your ego, yeah, you want that money from your spouse, but are you okay with being a housewife? Are you okay with cooking 3 square meals a day and birthing children and getting rid of your career and your goals and your ambitions with the person that you're with? That's what you're going to have to do. So if that's how you want to align this, these are the things you're going to have to do. That's sextile energy, right? So it could be that you guys starting to have a conversation around being a kept wife or husband. Right? I don't want to have to work anymore. I don't want to have to spend my money anymore. Right? I want to, you know, do content creation and I want to do all of this. And you have a conversation with your partner and they're like, oh, nah. If I keep you, you got to make sure you take care of the house. You got to, you know, take care of the kids, right? I should not have to want for nothing outside of paying the bills. You know, I know we've seen these conversations online, right? I should not have to want for anything outside of paying bills. That's it, because that's the type of person that you've aligned yourself with. So now you have a choice that you need to make. Your ambitions, your goals. Okay, if you're doing all of this stuff, you might not be able to have a career. You might not be able to do content creation because your whole day is going to be keeping the house and keeping the children because you want to be kept and now this is your new job. Is that what you want? Is that what you want to transition to? That's that sextile energy on the 17th as Mercury enters retrograde. It's Mercury having a conversation with Venus in some sort of transition that you want, right? Something that you feel that will bring you peace, but really does it speak to your goals and your ambitions and what you actually want to accomplish for yourself? Do they align? If they don't, you're going to see in this retrograde that they don't. Okay, it's bringing stuff from the past. It's a conversation that y'all done already had before, and now it's being brought back up, and now y'all rehashing it again, right? That is that sextile energy on the 18th. And then on the 31st, okay, there is this conjunction with Mercury and the Sun. Now, Mercury and the Sun on May 30th, again, were in a conjunction in that 8th house already. Mercury and the Sun done already seen what Venus has seen. right? Now, Venus may be seeing some new extra little things because Venus comes along after the Sun and Mercury already passed through their house, right? So now Venus is like, hey, Mercury. On the 18th, Venus is like, hey, Mercury, this is what this person wants, right? And now the Sun is coming back to meet Mercury again in the 10th house of goals and ambitions. And now Mercury and the Sun are having a conversation, and the Sun pulls out that flashlight and is like, look, that spotlight, look. All right. Now I know, you know, this person wants to be kept. I know that this person wants to have this type of, you know, relationship, but based on what I see over here and based on what I saw over there, and based on what's happening right now, I don't necessarily think the person that they're with is aligned to be that person. And Mercury is like, yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I sent, you know, that conversation when we had that sextile energy with Venus, when Venus talked to me about, you know, that transition that they wanted to have. And, you know, I sent the person and they had the conversation, and now the person, you know, sees that maybe this is not the direction that they want to go in. So now the Sun and Mercury are having a conversation. Well, what direction do they want to go in? Like, can we highlight what that is? So then you'll start to see more energy develop on that. Things popping out for real now because the Sun is talking to Mercury. The Sun exposes, right? And Mercury is in retrograde. This is restructure, repair, right? Restructure, repair, reflect, retrograde energy, right? So now Mercury is like, okay, well, both Mercury and the Sun are now like, all right, well, let's start pointing some lights at how this does not work out for the energy. You're gonna have to choose one thing or the other thing, but you can't have both, right? So this is Mercury and the Sun working together in that 10th house. Now it's like, okay, well, I know you said you wanted to be a kept person and you wanted your spouse's stuff, but if you are a content creator and you spend your energy doing that, right? Maybe you aren't, you stay with the person, or maybe you don't, who knows how that works out, right? But you stay here and you create this content, right? And then you'll be able to do things and make yourself happy, your own self happy. You'll have your own influence and your own fame and your own reputation. You don't need your spouse's, you know, resources. You can get your own. And this is how you can get it, right? If you change your thought process, you know, if you adjust yourself, if you align yourself this way, you can, you know, have the best of both worlds, right? It's that type of energy. Overall, Mercury is going to be light as it relates to all of the other retrogrades that are happening right now with Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto in retrograde. Saturn is the top dog. Saturn is whooping us. Saturn is our teacher. So Saturn takes the cake for all of this. Mercury is in a backseat, right? And Mercury is like, I'm going to sprinkle a little fairy dust here and I'm going to sprinkle a little fairy dust there. And then I'm going to head on out. Okay, I know, you know, I'm in retrograde, but Mr. Big Dog over there is calling the shots, and I'm gonna just play the back seat and, you know, sprinkle a little fairy dust where I can, and I'm going about my way, right? So Mercury retrograde is not going to be that deep, right? Because we already are knees deep, ankles deep, hip deep, neck deep in retrograde with Saturn, okay? So with that, Scorpio, you know, I hope this reaches you well.